Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Cannoli. This is the tag along part. Literally, we're making the hot tag from WWE Attitude Era into WCW Monday Nitro during the Monday Night Wars. And we all know what that was all about. It was always all about that too sweet, all about that for life. So once again, we're having this fatal four-way with everybody's too sweeting the camera, right? We got on this guy over here. We got Campo on my side. I don't know what the hell side that is.
I don't know. We can move him around, so it's gonna be confusing
Maybe
anyway.
Raise your hand. Then we got right under Campo. We have Caps, the captain of the show, aka Muscles Marinara, leader of our NWO over here. And right below me, we got the gamer pothead himself, Putty Man. Anybody need to? How's it going? All I see is your chin.
Oh, sorry.
Anybody want to plug anything? Campo, Putty Man.
Follow me at Johnny Donut 777 on everywhere on the internet.
Everywhere on the internet.
Follow me. You can Google me. Johnny Donuts 777. I'm on the internet.
Yeah, just don't Google yourself.
Yeah, I Google my. Wait, never mind.
Yeah, let's leave that for another time. That's a different. That's
you got
after hours. Go ahead.
And me too. Actually, I'm not on social media.
But you can also find him at Johnny
Donuts
Donuts
777. Yeah,
and you can find our host at Toronto Franco.
I got to start a page just for Toronto Franco. This guy. I'm wearing the long sleeves today.
Is it cold there?
Got myself a nice watch.
Is it cold? Is it cold there?
In the podcast, guy.
Is it cold there?
No,
YouTube money.
Oh, okay,
I live 10 minutes away from you.
I asked that.
Yeah, but I live 10 minutes away from you.
You're in this area as well? I didn't know that.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, sorry.
I
thought you were
also
down there.
We were talking about sharks at Islington and Steeles.
Oh, jeez. I'm so sorry, man. I'm sorry.
I once ate a shark.
Shark fin soup. It's illegal now, isn't it?
It attacked me and I ate it.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's like that meme,
I do stuff too as well. I'm here.
Shark in the nose.
I had shark repellent on my bat belt.
All right, Batman. Yeah.
All right. Back to the topic at hand. So we're talking about our favorite WCW Monday Nitro episodes, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, and how it influenced the Monday Night Wars. So I know, Caps, I know you got a lot to say about this. You're rocking that NWO shirt tonight. So let's get us started.
What I did like about it, I love the luchador stuff. The cruiserweights, they were innovative. They showed a lot of athleticism. They put on a great show. The mid carders, they put on some good matches. But when you look at the bad side of it, I mean, NWO started out as a great thing, great concept. Started out small. 3 guys, and then it ended up going to 4 or 5, and then ended up going to like 33 and a half. So when that happens,
Steiner, it's 33 and a third.
when that happens, it's like, where do you really go from there? Then you got the politics and the fact that Hogan never really loses and all that stuff, and it's like, you ran out of good ideas. You ran out of original ideas, and that's why a lot of the fan base turned away from, switched from WCW back to WWF at the time.
Very much
so yeah, I don't know if you guys want to take it from there, but pretty much it was a great concept from the beginning, but it just got old pretty quick.
Yeah.
Well, as we said in the last one, we are talking about. I know you guys had asked me about the Mount Rushmore, and I had said my favorite wrestler, and a lot of people were shocked, and that's because during that NWO saturation, we did have the situation where, and I think it was even prior to that NWO saturation as well, where Bill Goldberg went on his winning streak. You know what I mean? And then everyone was doing the whole thing. Okay, he's a copycat of Steve Austin, things of that nature. Which
Bischoff even admitted to that. He said he wanted the next Steve Austin with Goldberg.
Right. But even Bill Goldberg even said it. And see, the thing is, I was so saturated with Bill Goldberg that I read his book, and I found out that Bill Goldberg did have a hand in that as well, because Eric Bischoff was all about it, because Bill Goldberg wanted to just go basic. He didn't want to. He had his own image he wanted to set up. They talk about him in the locker room, actually talking to all the wrestlers, and he was going to go to WWE, but he didn't like the way Vince wanted to carry him. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why he ended up going to WCW. And I liked the way they did it with him. It was like basically they came in basically just like Brock Lesnar, where they were like, you know, he's not going to come in and talk. He's just going to come in, wrestle, and then walk away. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I liked about it, is because there was a time in life where wrestling was all about wrestling. Then it became something of a drama thing. You know what I mean? It had to have drama
behind it. Yeah,
exactly. So when I first saw Bill Goldberg step into the ring, and it was just like, bam, the jackknife, and then gone. I was like, well, spear and jackknife. I was like, gone. I became a fanatic. You know what I mean? I was with everyone else shouting Goldberg, so on and so forth. And I think for me, the reason it was such a big deal was because we did have the saturation in NWO, because we had the whole situation where we had Hogan, Nash, and all them, which were really good in the beginning. But then everything started splitting up to where you even Sting, one of my other favorite wrestlers, started going into that wearing red and black in the Wolfpack. And it was like,
Wolfpack.
Yeah, and it's like, oh no, now we're just getting way too much, because I loved Rey Mysterio, I loved all these wrestlers, but I loved them when they first came upon in WCW, or at least when they first came in as their new statuses, as far as like, you know, the way Eddie Guerrero was, or the way Rey Mysterio, the way
Malenko, yeah,
exactly,
that whole group there.
But then when like, for example, Rey Mysterio started going with the Wolfpack, that's when I was like, oh, dang it, I'm not liking you as much.
But
and
then,
it felt the same way with Sting.
Yeah, I think, like you said, with the whole oversaturation, we already gotten into the whole what we disliked, but the whole oversaturation too. Then you had factions. Then you had the NWO Classic, you had NWO Wolfpack, you had NWO 2000, you had the LWO, the Latino World Order. Like,
yeah, right.
It was just too much at the time. And like you said, the fact that Hogan was never booking himself to lose, I think that was a big issue of their downfall as well. To me, the high point was that Starrcade of Hogan versus Sting, where Sting made his first match back. And that was also their lowest point of how they handled it the next night.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah, sorry. So go ahead.
I mean, I think I agree and I disagree with a few things. I think there was an oversaturation of it. We've said that 473 times now in this episode, but
as long as Goldberg's streak.
I think the reason it turned out poorly is not because of how much NWO or how many factions we were getting. So I'll get to Goldberg in a second, but when we had that breakup, they handled two things really poorly. The LWO became like a joke, and they should have really ran with that and made them an equally big faction, so that now it's not just NWO dominating everything. Because even when you had the Wolfpack, which everyone was like behind the Wolfpack at that point, because the NWO all became heels.
They were the cool heels, right?
The NWO was so big that not even the Wolfpack could stop them. At least if the Wolfpack and the LWO were big enough to put up some kind of fight, or this is where the biggest mismanaging came in. The WCW aspect. You had DDP and basically nobody else. Why wouldn't you let Goldberg be on the WCW team? Why was Goldberg this lone wolf that just ran around and did whatever he want? And then at the last minute, you're like, okay, he'll be part of WCW. You benched Ric Flair because Bischoff is an idiot. Yeah. And you benched the whole four
for
horsemen.
A year, almost a year.
Imagine the Horsemen, which that's one of the greatest moments in Nitro history, is when he came back in Carolina and did that whole thing. But you had... You could have had the Four Horsemen. You could have had Goldberg and DDP. You could have brought in any of those lightweight guys. You could have had Kidman and all those guys, and Raven's Flock join the WCW.
And not only that, too, you had a great story there, too, because you had Scott Steiner and Rick Steiner split. Put Rick on WCW and Scott in NWO. Same thing with Booker T and Stevie Ray. Another great tag team that split, where Stevie Ray went to NWO and Booker T just became the superstar.
Yeah, and it's really weird how they handled that. I never understood that. And the biggest thing that they did wrong, period, actually, is when the NWO angle hit its peak, they were letting the wrestlers book their own matches.
Yeah.
Like, who does that? You were overbooked to the point where it's like, oh, yeah, let's get high. Okay, yeah, we're super high now. Jimmy's going to come in, and then Jimmy's mom's going to come in, and then five
literally
fans are going to come
Bagwell's
in.
mom.
Yeah, on a buff
Judy Bagwell
on a forklift.
But that's exactly it. It was the politics. It was Hogan. It was
Vince
okay.
Russo.
So what was the highest point where was it that it was going to be put over the top? It was Starrcade 1997. Okay,
The
it was
introduction of
Sting,
the NWO.
It was Sting versus Hogan. Okay, they had a year-long storyline. All right,
Right.
and they built it to the point where
Amazing build-up.
amazing build-up, and then they had this main event where everybody was into. Okay, Sting versus Hogan. Do you guys remember what the finish was?
It was a ref bump and a Bret Hart fast count. Alleged Bret Hart fast count.
Yep.
It was a fast count. Okay, you're telling me Hogan didn't have anything to do with that fast count?
Of course it did.
That it was supposed to be a fast count, but the ref actually, it was a proper count. So right from there on, you had people turn away because they know that Hogan was in on it, and it was just pure BS.
Given that, okay, you go. Finish what you're saying.
I got one more example with Hogan's politics. Okay, when they broke off and they had the Wolfpack, the original concept, the original idea was to have Hall in the Wolfpack because Hall and Nash were always like this. Okay, always. And then they came up with this idea. Hogan he was the one that came up with the idea. It's like, well, we got to keep at least one person with me because you can't. I'm
not going to be as over.
Yeah, you're not going to be as over. He won't be as cool because the cool factor came from Hall and Nash, not from Hogan. Hogan would go on these rants and just like brother. It's like nobody can't really. Yeah, you can't do that as a heel.
The four coolest wrestlers at the time, you probably had Sting, Hall, Nash, and I would say Conan.
Yeah, Conan was cool.
Conan was so over.
But you also had Macho Man. Macho Man's angles in the WCW were really messed up, but he never lost his fan base, which is cool. I think on Nick's point, for me, like I really watched WCW. Like when I started watching WWE was around when was the first Raw?
93.
So probably around 94, and then that was my lifespan of wrestling. But from like 96, early 96 until the year like 1999, WCW was where it was for me. Their games were the best. Everything about WCW was the best. From 1997, I believe, or 1996. Is it 7? Yeah, I think. Whatever. July 96, maybe.
July 96 was when Hogan turned and joined
when
the
NWO became a thing in July 96 until early 1998. The WCW was so much better than the WWF. It wasn't even close. Like
those 83 weeks or whatever Bischoff calls his podcast.
So insanely better that it didn't even make sense how the WWF survived that time. Their bookings were so bad. The introduction of the NWO is completely changed the face of wrestling forever. We've never looked back since then.
Well, if you don't mind me chiming in, see, that was the thing. I noticed that a lot because the thing is with Ted Turner and the whole thing with Vince McMahon and that whole rivalry of being a dominant wrestling, I noticed that Ted Turner basically like Eric Bischoff, do what you want. And of course, Eric Bischoff, because they got control of Hogan, they were like, we have a high profile player here that didn't feel like he got the recognition anymore in WWF like he wanted to. So we have a high profile player here that can take control of everything, which was at the time really great in the beginning. And like you said, those days was amazing. But then, like you said, the reason that I feel the saturation we've said ourselves was so bad is because Hogan felt like he shouldn't lose because he was such a high profile player, which is a problem in wrestling. If you have somebody that doesn't take falls, like even though I praised Goldberg and he went around, but he eventually did fall, you know what I mean? But that's my whole point. It felt like Hogan did not want that to happen to him. And that's because he had way too much power, even above Eric Bischoff in that situation. You know
and that's why Hogan lost that power a little bit when Russo came in.
Exactly. Yep.
There was the whole he didn't want to take the fall to Jeff Jarrett for the title.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, sorry, but the problem with that is the contract that he had creative input on everything that he did.
Not just what everybody did.
Yeah, but to go back to Putty's point, when Goldberg lost his first match, who did he lose to?
It was I forgot.
Hall.
Yeah, Scott Hall.
Right. Yeah, no, it was Hogan.
No, it was.
I know for sure it was Hogan.
It was Nash.
Oh yeah, it was
I
Nash.
just remember the cattle prod.
Yeah. But Kevin Nash won the match, right?
Yeah.
Guess who's on the booking committee?
Kevin
Nash
and Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, but didn't Nash lose the title immediately?
To who?
To Hogan.
To Hogan.
The finger. That was the finger
Yeah.
poke of doom.
Yeah, that was the one with and it fell backwards. A lot of people don't realize
So
it was
did
the
your
most
camera.
horrible thing ever, and they laughed about it too. And it's like, oh my god,
No,
you know
but
what I mean?
you
Like,
know what the worst part of that is?
Putty moving the count. That's a proper finger poke of doom right there. It's like
Yeah.
the power behind that finger poke.
This is the thing. If you go back and you listen to them talk about that, Nash didn't want to give up the title to Hogan.
No,
And-
he wanted to have a long run with it.
And he deserved a long run with it. He was probably at that point the most popular wrestler in WWE other than Sting. I mean, WCW, sorry.
Yeah, I thought he was the coolest. Kevin Nash has always been one of my
They were
favorites.
both cool. And this is the thing. Like, I give them big props. The heel turn for Hogan is one of the greatest things ever done in wrestling.
It had to be
was
done.
a great heel.
Yeah.
He was a great friggin' heel. It just, his bookings were so stupid. And then as far as Goldberg goes, because I know I never got to get to that, the problem with Goldberg is he can't cut a promo for his life, and he can't actually wrestle. You only can take Goldberg in small doses.
He was too green when they brought him out.
Spear,
Yeah.
No,
Even
and
to this day, he's the worst friggin' wrestler.
no,
And
I'm
they're
never.
still bringing him back.
Well, here's the thing. He's just based on power. That's all he is. And I'm aware of this. You know what I mean? I would never say he's a technical wrestler. I would never say he's a great wrestler. For me, the reason he's so high on my list is because the intimidation factor of how they brought him in and everything. Like even time when he came to the stage, you know what I mean? Like using the spark effect, coming in, just the anger. Like I felt the same way. I was like, when he started talking, I'm like, oh, this is not the Goldberg I want. I want him to be quiet. You know what I mean?
This is my
just
point.
Like,
you're taking this like as me cutting at him. You need to let me finish. So,
okay.
anyways, what they
knew
did
that
with
too.
Goldberg, the way they handled Goldberg,
He was limited.
the way they handled him in the beginning was very well done. You didn't give him super long matches. You let him play to his strengths, but then slowly over time, you started letting him talk. You started letting him have long matches. He became like, the ideal way to handle Goldberg would have been to cane him, where you had someone who spoke for him all the time. He never talked. He just stood there and he was a beast and just powered through people. That's what I want from Goldberg.
What they did with Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
They allowed, so by doing that, they allowed him to like grow and develop a little bit. There was some surges or some good matches with him, like the match between him and DDP.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, yeah.
I think it was Halloween Havoc, which they cut off.
They cut off because they ran out of time.
Mismanagement, which seems to be the theme of WCW. But like, there were times that he could put on. I guess it just depends on who he was wrestling.
Yeah, the fact that they put together everything, like we haven't even begun to dig into this yet, but like the fact that they did everything that they did and still somehow managed in the end to screw it up by mismanaging stuff is crazy, because they had a product that was so good and they had a roster that was so good, a roster that ended up leading WWE into the future. Your Chris Benoit's and Chris Jericho's and all those guys.
Into WWE.
Oh, I should say,
Harry Saturn, Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, these guys carried it, and a lot of those guys even went back to the new reformation of ECW and helped carry it, like Raven and stuff. So it just seems crazy how you mismanage that. You had some of the biggest names in wrestling history with Ric Flair and Sting and Hogan and Macho Man, Lex Luger.
Yeah,
and you like, okay, yes, granted, you let Lex Luger come in on WCW on Nitro and win the title from Hogan. Okay, I'll give you that. But it's like, dude,
it was a lot of mismanagement, man.
Really.
It was a lot of mismanagement. Do you guys remember? Like, they had Hogan versus Goldberg on a Nitro. When you could have had that.
Did he drop the title?
Yeah, but you could have had that on a pay-per-view. You know, make some money, get the buy rates, get the viewership, but you decided to have it on Nitro, announce it a few days before, out of nowhere.
But then again, at that point, would anybody care? Because at that point, Goldberg lost the streak already. It was Hogan, so you knew Hogan was going to go over. Would anybody have cared for that on pay-per-view?
No, the streak was still going on by then.
Was it?
The streak was still happening because he got the title from Hogan. And then later on that year is when he lost the title.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because he did go again. Okay, yeah, because I remember, because I wasn't able to always get
the because he had both belts.
And I remember there was a match between the both of them, but I was like, I don't think he won that one, so I'm a little bit confused because I thought Goldberg had the belt.
I'm thinking of the one that was later. Yeah.
And it's like you should have Hogan booked Goldberg the whole time, where anytime he took a loss, it was because something happened. Like someone put a chair there and then, oh, I broke my neck because of the
cattle
pile
prod.
driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, like give me a break.
Or
like,
let me put my fist through a limousine window and sever all the tendons.
Yeah, like it's always like some shit. But you like Hogan booking for those things works in a way when you have someone that you need to keep putting over, right? Like when you have a guy like Brock Lesnar and you let him lose to little dweebs, like even if the crowd loves it, that defeats the purpose of this character. Maybe once it's okay, but when you constantly let it happen, it's like
he doesn't.
Well, that's why when somebody beats Brock Lesnar, it was something big. When Goldberg beat Brock Lesnar a few years ago, it was actually right here in Toronto, Survivor Series. Remember, he beat him in like 1:20 or something like that. And it's like the whole crowd. I was at that show, and like the whole crowd was like, "Huh?" Like we were all miffed by it. Like it was literally like you heard silence in the crowd because nobody wanted to see Goldberg. At least not here.
Yeah, when he came back right now on what was it, SmackDown or Raw?
On Raw. He's facing who is it? Bobby Lashley.
You could fully tell there was a crowd there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so like I'm not crazy. They fully pumped in artificial noise because
they
the crowd was just
lot.
standing there looking like, what the fuck? Why is this guy here? Like everyone was like, why is he back? Like get rid of this guy.
Yeah,
and Bobby Lashley sucks. I'm sorry, but like,
Lashley's not that good. And
back to WCW.
In clarity, though, today also we're recording this episode on the same day as Bray Wyatt's release from the WWE.
Oh, really?
Oh, don't worry, Alexa Bliss will take over.
She already did. That's why they released them.
I don't even watch wrestling,
and he knows. See.
I'm just
sorry.
Now because of these podcasts, I just have to be up with the news. But
I haven't even been doing that. Like I'd rather just go back and look old stuff. Like
I've been watching all the old
stuff.
Like
the closest I have to Alexa Bliss is a music video by I can't think of the name of the
Bowling
band.
for Soup.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I'm up to know with Alexa Bliss.
But listen, Nitro and Thunder had most of the time on Nitro and Thunder, you had better bookings than you did on the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Like Monday night was like better watch than you go to watch Spring Stampede, and it's like
not later on. Not later on. It just became too chaotic and just like something never. There was no end to a storyline. It's just like to be continued.
And that's the thing I wanted to talk about.
Every single time.
I forgot about that. Thank you for saying that. I started noticing that there were so many major storylines that were so good that just got not even pushed to the side,
left unfinished,
just stopped. It just stopped.
That's
you're
the
like,
politics.
That was so good.
Like, that's the politics.
But see, that's the problem. That's exactly what we said at the beginning. You know what I mean? Eric Bischoff with the whole with Ted Turner, Eric Bischoff, that whole situation. They were like, "Listen, we want everyone to have their own free will because of the tight structure that Vince has." But that's why I feel Vince was smart, because at least he's like, there's a beginning, middle, and end to everything. You know what I mean? There's going to be an outcome to it. When they were during that time with WCW, there was so messy because everyone wanted to have their own storyline and have their own control. But then they were just so excited it felt like they were so excited to get to the next thing that there was no ending to everything. So it was just constantly like, we'll do this. Okay, let's move to the next thing. And it's like, well, are we going to find out what's going to happen with that last thing?
And then everything that came after, right? Everything, all the Vince Russo era, everything was like, let's make something happen where this wrestler goes to this guy's house. Let's make it happen. Everything was happening outside of wrestling. Yeah. Like, I don't care about that. I don't want to know about Macho Man slapping around women. Like, what kind of angle was that?
I don't
Ric
know
Flair
who
going to
said
the
it.
mental institution.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
I don't know who said it, but someone, there was like some sort of interview, but someone said it's like the difference between Vince McMahon and Eric Bischoff was Vince McMahon was a boss and controlled everything, and Eric Bischoff was just one of the boys.
Yes,
he wanted to be one of the boys. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and when that happens, it's like, okay, well, you're just letting the inmates run the asylum. It's like you pretty much got carte blanche to do whatever the hell you want. Yeah. There was no structure. Now, when it came to the whole Vince Russo thing, how much time do we got?
We got lots of time. Don't worry, we got lots of time. As much time as you want.
Like with Vince Russo, I heard him say it somewhere. I think it was Jim Cornette, because him and Jim Cornette don't get along.
Don't like each other.
It's actually pretty funny if you ever watch one of the shoots. But Jim Cornette's like, Vince Russo was like a fan of Springer, and he was basing all his storylines off
Trash
of
TV.
Springer. It's just horrible trash TV, and it was like, I mean, I was huge into WCW, but when they were transitioning into the Russo era, I actually would have to give him a little bit of credit. When they had if you guys can help me out with this, like the young
young
guys
bloods.
and the
That
was pretty cool.
Was it
that
the
was
Billionaires
okay.
Club or so? Yeah,
that was pretty cool. But then it just got weird, and it's just like,
okay.
I don't know. It just blurring the lines between fake and real, and you had Goldberg telling Russo off on TV. But like it wasn't real, but it was real, and it's just
Russo
like
winning the belt, David Arquette winning the belt.
That and see the thing is, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I gotta say it, the whole Goldberg thing, that felt like that's when they started really saying, let's make him more Steve Austin. Let's let him go against the bigwigs. You know what I mean?
He was never that guy, so it didn't make sense to make him like Steve Austin.
Exactly, but that was the problem because it was becoming a joke. And see, that's the thing that was so big with WWE, WCW that we didn't even bring up when you guys were talking about the backstage stuff. It was always someone trying to overpower, but WCW did not understand where they can hold back. Like, for example, even WWE was doing the backstage stuff where they were fighting outside the ring, but then WCW was
perfect example.
Exactly, but then WCW is like, well, we could do the same thing, but again, like you said, we're going to do it at a mental hospital, way out of the ring now. It's not even in the area.
They did a lot of weird things like that, where like fight in the woods.
But
like,
that's
the Vampiro fight where they went into the lake.
Yeah, the Vampiro fight with the Gene Simmons demon.
Yeah,
well, that's because you could see that they were both. That everyone was trying to, because you gotta remember that the whole thing with Eric Bischoff. A lot of people don't realize the reason also they were doing that is because Vince was. Because you gotta remember, Vince didn't have any part in being a wrestler or even a part of the character.
But he did
when it came
though.
To
he did though.
Well,
After with Austin, he was the authority figure.
Well,
there was
that's
the
what I'm
whole
saying.
corporate ministry.
I'm talking prior. I'm talking about like 80s when there was the.
They
80s,
didn't even know he owned the company.
Exactly. Like the only thing they knew is sometimes he would be sitting, he'd be talking on the sidelines about the wrestling. Like they didn't even know he owned the company. But then he started getting into it, and that's when also because if you look at it, you'll see the parallels. Like Vince was doing it, Eric's doing it. Now we have it's like it was like, even though I love WCW for the passion, and a lot of the wrestlers I love that always be on my list is from WCW, but it was because I like those wrestlers. As far as the management, it was horrible. And that's the problem.
You're also from the South, so WCW is the South. Which okay, so let me just play off what you're saying for a second. I think there was another big error that they made. Okay, so Bischoff started as the heel, like owner guy. Vince McMahon totally stole that. Vince McMahon totally stole that angle, but he did it way better than Bischoff.
Yep.
Also,
because he was the actual owner of the company.
When WCW. When WWE was in its early 90s phase and you had all those dumb characters that were like racist or didn't make any sense and you're like, why is this happening? Okay, they got past that. You want to know what the problem is? You were in the late 90s, early 2000s, and WCW was still having those characters. Like, why do you have Disco Inferno? Why does that exist? Like, okay, I actually like Disco Inferno.
Disco Inferno is fine. It's the other guy, Mike Awesome, as that 70s guy.
Yeah,
the fat chick
Van
thriller.
Halen.
Van Hammer.
Van Hammer. But there was so many characters like that. I was just using that as an example, and it just didn't make sense.
When
and
Booker
you took
T
guys
was GI Bro for a short time.
Like, look, you had really good angles with some guys, okay, and you didn't let them go anywhere with it. Like Kidman, you turned Kidman, who was a really good wrestler at the time and had good angles with certain guys like Chavo and stuff, and instead you made his whole angle about Torrie Wilson, and it just doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense.
And see, I like Kidman, but even in those situations, it always feels like there's always parallels to everything. Like Kidman was the X-Pac of WCW.
No, X-Pac was in WCW at the time, and his name was
that's right.
Six.
That's right. Okay, because I remember that movie. Okay, no, I actually got thinking. I'm thinking.
Who was the 1, 2, 3 kid?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. That's okay. There we go. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Anyways, but like, it's just there was just too much of that, and WCW excelled at, to me, two things very well. They handled their relationship with the Luchas and with New Japan amazingly. And they brought those guys here and they let them do what they do. They didn't overbook them. They didn't take control of the match. They let them show their skills. And the mid-card wrestlers slash the middleweight wrestlers, like the lightweight,
yeah.
were so much better than anything WWE was putting on. Like the mid cards were actually good.
Yeah,
Like one of my favorite
Guerrero,
feuds. My favorite feuds is Jericho versus Dean Malenko.
Yeah.
The man of 1,004 holds. Move 7, armbar. Move 11, armbar.
And it's just it was so, they handled it so well. The fact that Vince McMahon didn't care at all about anyone who wasn't a jacked up, roided guy is what hurt WWE at that time. You were pushing guys that could talk, like Austin and The Rock, to have guys like Viscera. Like you made Mabel win the
King of the Ring.
And then who won it after him? Wasn't it another stupid idiot that won the next one? Yeah, like Mr. Ass. Like, get out of here.
I forgot about him.
So stupid.
Or the Brawl for All.
Yeah,
but see, I do want to put out there. Like,
WCW couldn't do a pay-per-view.
No, but we downfall. No, let's just say we downfall WCW. But we also got to look at it. WWE was doing the same thing. You know what I mean? I'm with they were throwing in a lot of their crazy wrestlers, like Doink the Clown and everything out there as a crazy.
Yeah, but Doink the Clown was a little prior, but
that's what I'm saying. WCW kept going with that dumb stuff.
Oh no, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying. That's why I said that's why I said later down the road it just seemed like it was way too chaotic. Again, saturation and craziness where they were trying to overpower WWE's.
But Stone Cold, I'm not discrediting Stone Cold or The Rock in any way at all when I say this. But there was nothing ever cooler in wrestling than hearing the NWO song come on and have Scott Hall walk out, or when it changed to the Wolfpack and you got "Don't Turn Your Back on the Wolfpack," and when they had Sting in the red face paint, like those are moments encapsulated in time as like just so cool that they can never be matched. Like
when Conan, like you said, when Conan was part of that Wolfpack, he orale, he would come out, right?
And they all had their little thing.
And he would
sweet.
Yeah, and it was at one point and I think another thing of their downfall was like, okay, you like this, here's more of it. And
it got too much. It became that, like I said, they didn't handle the mid cards or the lightweight after they gave up on them. The LWO, they gave up on WCW. It was just Wolfpack versus NWO all the time. And anytime a match that didn't have one of them in it, so one of them would interfere in that match.
Yeah, it was always some sort of NWO interference. Like it was never.
It went too far.
Yeah, well, even though at the time, right before Jericho left, he had this amazing feud with Juventud, where Juventud lost the mask.
And listen, DDP was like the saving grace of WCW. Even in the later years, he took over and dominated between him and Booker T because Scott Steiner was absolute trash, and I don't understand why you pushed Scott Steiner ever.
It's fucking crazy. That's why.
Yeah, because he seemed like a mental patient to me, to be honest with you. So
Scott Steiner was, he was a little weird. He's always been a little weird though.
Could have been the roids.
Yeah, could most likely. But I mean, to be fair, that Vince Russo era though did bring us a great run of and really propelled someone like Booker T, who would have probably never seen a heavyweight championship in his life if it wasn't for that run, because everybody was so caught up in, oh, you're not going to put me over this person, and I'm not going to put this person. Well, it's like, okay, well, here's Booker T.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That Booker T DDP era was like crazy that how much time they got.
And it's amazing how DDP started wrestling in his 40s. Like he was in his 40s when he started wrestling. He was just a manager before.
Well, they had the Diamond Girls. What was he called? What was his name?
The Diamond Stud. That was Scott Hall. The Diamond
Stud, and he with Scott Hall, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the Diamond Mine or something like that.
Yeah, and then and you see, I mean,
what was DDP's wife's name?
Kimberly.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Kimberly
Diamond
Page.
Doll.
She was in the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There was a match with her where she got like beat up by she got beat up by who? Macho Man and Medusa.
Yeah, and Medusa.
And it's like they're just and then they had the whole thing with Asia. Remember Asia and the China?
Yeah, she was.
I gotta thank Kevin Nash though. Like he was the one that brought in all the hot babes.
Kevin Nash is the coolest.
Tori Wilson.
Didn't Shawn Michaels marry one of the Nitro Girls?
I think so. Yeah. I have
who's
all the
other
cards. I'm
girl?
not going to go look for them. I have all the Nitro Girls.
Who's the other girl that I think her name is Pamela something? Pamela, she's like an interviewer.
Yes.
Like a blonde. Sorry, Putty Man. I think I cut you off.
No, it's fine. Because you are going into that. That was the funny part. As far as the Nitro Girls were more memorable for me just for being attractive. Like as far as wrestling, I can't like until you guys started bringing up like the actual wrestlers that weren't actual Nitro Girls. I totally forgot. Like that was
Tigress,
the biggest problem for me.
The...
Yeah, it was the thing is I felt like I knew more about the Nitro Girls than just the rest of themselves. Like over at WWE, I feel like they again managed the females way better than they did over here in WCW.
But then again, like the way they handled someone like Miss Jackie was like she was such a talented wrestler that she was stuck in like doing kitschy stuff like bra and panties matches, right? Like
I agree, but that's the thing. It still made it more memorable, even though it did. It was I wasn't saying that there were good matches. For me to not remember a lot of the wrestlers until you guys bring it up right now, literally right now, it's a definition of how I feel on WCW side. It just wasn't as memorable.
There's like the memorable moments are like, what was her name? Medusa's original name, Alundra Blaze or something.
Alundra Blaze.
When she went over and she put the title in the garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, but then the women's division went nowhere, and they didn't have that. The problem was you had in the WWE, you had more of a push for the women's division, but it wasn't good wrestlers. You had Mark Merrill's husband, and then everybody else.
Who's now married to Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, who's now like 75 years old and married to Brock Lesnar.
Mark Merrill's husband?
Yeah, because she was the man in the relationship.
Stable.
She made the money. She brought home the bacon. That's just.
And then you had Jerry Lawler's girlfriend at the time, Miss Kitty.
Yeah. Let's get.
And then you had Mae Young and Fabulous Moolah.
Let's get no more WWE for now. But the Nitro Girls they were added because Turner Broadcasting is from the South, and Raw football, we need cheerleaders. They wanted to make the environment like a football game. That was always the goal. And but their fans are way more wild. At the end of every Nitro, they just threw all of their garbage into the ring.
But I actually liked it for some reason because I felt it more real.
I loved it at that point, but now when I watch like clips and stuff, it kind of feels bad to me. Imagine being a performer and you're the one that they love, but at the end of the match, just because it's a thing, they're all whipping their garbage at you. Like, what the hell is that?
But then again, in that era, every Nitro ended with the WCW laying somebody out and spray painting them.
Yeah. Yep.
That's how every Nitro ended for a good solid 6 months.
Yeah.
Like somebody was getting spray painted.
I mean, listen to me. I'm not even going to talk crap about that because every single time that happened, it was the best night of my life. I would go to school next day. Do you see what happened? And they sprayed him in the ring.
I will.
Go for it.
When they were talking about, when my buddies was, how did Nitro end? It ended the same way like it did the last few weeks.
Somebody got spray painted.
It's the same thing. Somebody got spray painted again.
I think it was Paige this time.
They turned Sting.
It was Kimberly.
They turned Sting from a really good wrestler who everybody loved into an absolute icon in that moment. That's one of the greatest things that they've ever done.
But then again, that's stolen from a comic book / movie.
I know, but allow it because it was epic. Like him coming down on the zip line, you cannot tell me that's not one of the greatest moments in
No,
Monday
the zip line
night.
was Shawn Michaels. He came down on the zip line. I think he was
sorry,
lowered.
He rappelled down to the ring.
He rappelled down, yeah.
But that was on a Monday night episode. Shawn Michaels was at a pay-per-view.
At Mania 12 versus Bret Hart.
So you see what I mean? Like WCW at that time was like, they were doing great things. And then
when Sting rappelled down, his harness got stuck and it took him 10 minutes to get him out of it.
Come on, we're not going to go too deep into this. You had the thing where I watched the episode of the podcast with Stone Cold and Kevin Nash. And they were talking about like, the cool thing, he's like, okay, so get us some baseball bats. And so they had a prop baseball bat and a real baseball bat. So they came to the ring. Scott Hall and Steve Nash came out of the crowd to go save, I don't remember who it was, from the NWO. So Nash, when they're walking up the metal stairs, he's banging the bat on the stairs. So it sounds like it's real. And then when they came running, Scott Hall hit someone with the fake bat and it broke. And they're like, everyone in the crowd went nuts because they're like, holy crap, they're using baseball bats. Like they're crazy. These guys are scary. And it was like, he's like, from that moment on, we were the scariest people in WCW.
Yeah, because they still want to portray the idea that they were invading the company and they weren't.
But that was so cool. That kind of stuff they did was so cool.
Like, but the first time you actually saw it, I remember distinctly when Nash and Scott Hall, like, they literally showed them show up. Wasn't it behind
Hall
the guys?
Hall came first. He came out.
He still did that in a Canadian tuxedo.
Yeah,
but he did the whole. But that's the thing. Like, they had to put a stop to that because he came out as Razor Ramon.
Yeah,
like with the whole the curl in the front with the chain.
But he never said his name.
No,
but he never said his name.
And let's talk. Okay, so you had the Alonzo Blaze.
You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here.
You had the Rick Rude on the same night went from Raw to Nitro on he quit, and then who else? There was another really big one that went. Lex Luger won the title
because Raw was still being taped at that time. It wasn't live.
Yeah,
that was the other difference too. Nitro was live. Raw was taped for that first little while.
Yeah, and half the time Raw wouldn't be on because of the Westminster Dog Show.
Yeah, exactly. Can't miss the dogs. I mean, let's be honest. WCW did a lot of really good things.
Yeah,
their early 90s was solid, but it wasn't like must-see. Nitro became must-see TV.
Yeah.
And then turned into a joke.
I just remember being pretty ballsy when they went to 3 hours. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like...
But then again, like, one of the greatest moments probably in WCW history was, okay, Ric Flair returns and I'm reforming the Four Horsemen to fight the NWO. And at that time, the Four Horsemen were probably bigger than they were originally.
Yeah,
like you had Malenko, you had
it was Mongo.
Yeah, I think he just died recently too, Mongo McMichael. You had Benoit, you had
he's still alive, he just has MS.
He just has MS.
Was it Kurt Hennig?
Yeah.
Was Kurt
pretty
Hennig?
bad?
And then he turned his back on the Four Horsemen.
But they were. I was watching someone talk about it the other day, and the original angle was to keep those four. And they're like, it would have been maybe the greatest faction ever in the history of wrestling. But the stupid writing to make him turn his back. Because Mr. Perfect. Okay, let's talk about that for a second.
Sure.
He's one of the most improperly used, amazing wrestlers who ever lived,
and never won a title.
He could take an
except
absolute.
The IC. Okay, he won the IC.
He could take a piece of trash and make it look like gold, like Bret Hart style. And
as far as wrestling, but as far as personality wise, I didn't really feel it.
He had that personality where he was just the best. He was kind of like Ted DiBiase, right? At the beginning, at least.
That cocky heel,
Yeah, he was on that pretty long list of guys that never became a world champion.
And then you had Arn Anderson and the retirement that happened on Nitro, where Ric Flair was like crying in the background of the thing. Yeah. And I mean,
and he gave a spot. He gave a spot to Dean Malenko or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was because Benoit was already in it.
Yeah,
was that the same night the NWO mocked them?
Yes. No, the next Nitro, the next week.
The next Nitro. Sorry. Okay.
But it's like that was like one of the most heartfelt moments ever in wrestling, and then the next week you fucking mock it. Like, come on, that's
that was dumb.
That's politics. That's the politics.
But that's the thing. That could have been one of the biggest angles because I think that was leading into the War Games match, wasn't it?
Yes, and War Games was another really good idea that was poorly executed. Though I watched the one recently that was NWO, WCW, and Wolfpack, and it started with just Bret Hart fighting DDP for like 10 minutes, and it was so boring. Like, how did you make DDP versus Bret Hart boring?
Boring, yeah.
That's when Bret Hart was shortly a little bit of the leader of the NWO for a short time, right?
Yeah, it was just weird. And that's when Warrior came out, when the smoke came in the ring, and then Warrior went nuts. Which this is the funniest thing. You know, when you do that with lines, you do that with somebody, and so you have them come out. I told you that's when he did. He does that weird breathing thing that I don't understand. But anyways, you brought him out, this beast. Everyone's freaking out. Then they beat him down. And then smoke came out again, and he disappeared, and then he showed up back in the ring. I was like, why would you bring out this guy to beast mode and then beat him up? How the hell does that make any sense?
Well, I think that was another thing, too, was like, okay, where do we go with Hogan, who doesn't want to lose? It's like they're rehashing all his old rivalries, too. Like, I think that led to that. It was that infamous Halloween Havoc match with the flash paper that doesn't go off or something like that.
Yeah, and then
I was going to say this goes back to what really bothered me in the whole situation was that Ted Turner was pulling all the wrestlers that were huge on WWE side and saying we want to make what's popular before, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. But again, Vince knew, listen, our fans do want this stuff, but I understand it's going to get boring. I've been in this business for years upon years upon years. You haven't. I know that's the reason why he knew Hogan could not keep going the way he was and all these other wrestlers, because there had to be new blood come in, which he was smart about. WCW took that old blood and they did change it. NWO was amazing and the stuff they did, but then they did the same exact thing that they were already doing that Vince realized you couldn't do, which is do the same thing over and over again.
If you see what Turner did,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Turner treated them like, not him specifically, because I'm sure he never met any of them, but the company treated them like actual athletes. Yep. So you can see the contract that the Warrior turned down, Ultimate Warrior. It was $700K a year for 5 more years plus whatever percent of things. And then Turner was like, we'll pay you $1.5 million a year to come here. You had guys like Hogan there making like $3 million. Hall was making $1 million a year. They were getting paid like actual athletes. Where in WWE, only the best guys were getting that. If you were a mid-carder, you were getting $40K a year probably.
In all fairness, I think the only reason why they brought Warrior into WCW was so Hogan can get his win back from WrestleMania 6.
Probably.
That makes sense.
I mean, they started off using him kind of well and then just didn't. Like, let's not forget about all of the blunders, right? Like, the Dungeon of Doom?
The Dungeon of Doom, Kevin
Dungeon
Sullivan.
Of Doom. Oklahoma, remember Oklahoma making fun of JR after he had the stroke or whatever. That was messed up, man.
That was horrible.
Vince Russo is a psycho sometimes.
I remember that stipulation that Hall and Nash had in their contract, where they if they know about someone that's getting paid more than them, they get matched.
You automatically get the they get the bump.
Didn't they also have a stipulation, both of them, in their contract that said they were never allowed to not look cool? Like, they were never allowed to be made look like losers in matches.
Look like a fool,
Yeah. I swear it was those two. I might be wrong, but like,
I don't know.
I know Hogan had,
Yeah, either way, that's the reason why you saw like just the domination.
because remember, they made fun of Scott Hall with the alcoholism.
Yeah,
that was stupid.
Yeah, so
dumb.
I don't think Hall had it in his contract. Maybe Nash, but not Hall, because they made Hall look pretty stupid with that.
DDP saved his life.
Bad taste.
Yeah,
DDP
it was.
saved Hall's life and Lex Luger's life.
Mm-hmm.
Not Lex Luger, Jake the Snake.
Jake the Snake.
Jake the Snake. But didn't he help Lex Luger as well to get him off from?
You know what? I apologize. You could be right, but I just know that after Elizabeth's
I
death,
know for a fact. Yeah, it was Jake the Snake.
He was paralyzed and he's like wheelchair bound. But
he is. I met him a few years ago.
Yeah, he's like really religious, but I think that's what kind of helped him. Maybe DDP helped him. I'm not sure.
Hey, man, good guy. He's known as the good guy of wrestling.
Hey, if you don't know, DDP also has a weight loss program. You should check it out.
He also is Daddy Yoga.
That's the thing. Yeah, he actually helped out a YouTuber like my size.
And Jay-Z stole his hand sign, the self high five.
I know the diamond. Yeah,
dude, if I can look as good as DDP at what is he, over 60 now?
Something? Yeah.
What's the saying? Chest forward, shoulders back. Diamond cutter.
I want to hear Campos breathe again.
Oh, your warrior.
Do your warrior breathing?
I just watch. Go search it. You might not have ever noticed it. It's crazy. He runs around, and I don't know if he's actually like, he probably is gas, but watch him breathe. And I just spit everywhere. It looks so stupid that I can't believe that people were like, "This guy's really cool." Like, he looks so stupid. He never looked cool. I watched
really
all
cool, yeah.
That whole carte blanche thing, like they could just do whatever the heck they wanted, and no filter.
And that's what I think. I think that's why they brought Piper in, just so Hogan can get his.
Piper was good in WCW.
Yep.
Piper cut some badass promos in WCW.
Piper's always been good on the mic.
He said some
Piper's
racist
was like one of the best things
yes,
ever.
He did. But you know what, though? That wasn't Piper, though. That was so he can get heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a story about Piper. I don't know if you know about this story, but he was wrestling in Mexico. And he said that's when he used to come out with the bagpipes. Yeah. And he goes, now I'm going to play the Mexican national anthem. And he starts playing La Cucaracha on the bagpipes. They wanted to murder him.
Yeah, they had to escort him out of the city.
They were throwing like the giant D-cell batteries at him.
Yeah, that was messed up. But I mean, this is my thing about WCW. If you really watch it and like see how it progressed slowly, like let's say we're like where it started to fall off a bit, you're like mid 1998.
Yeah.
It's still good, but it's like falling off. You could see that they all came from WWE and NWA and Smoky Mountain. Everybody went there to be buddy and hang out with their friends and get effed up. You could see it. They're all wasted. Every episode, they're just a bunch of drunk guys walking around for the whole episode.
But then the guys with the actual talent leave.
Yeah, exactly. You had all your Dean Malenkos and your Ric Flairs that were like, what's going on here?
Like, those guys were the future. Those guys were the future of the company, and they mistreated them.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about some of the lucha stuff that they did that was good.
Absolutely. Rey Mysterio launched his career. Eddie Guerrero.
Can you name them all?
Okay, we got Psychosis, we got Juventud Guerrera, we have Super Crazy, we have Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero. For a bit, you had Chavo in there. That's about it. That's
La Parka.
Ultimo Dragon with the chair. Ultimo Dragon. Was he Mexican or Japanese?
Japanese.
Well, it's a play on.
Japanese.
That's the only reason I said it. It is
Japanese because he was managed by what's his name?
Sonny Ono.
And if you ever see his title cards, they always say Ultimate Dragon.
Yes.
It never says Ultimo Dragon.
And how can we forget about Ernest the Cat Miller, the 3-time karate champion?
I mean, that's when WCW really was digging for stuff. You had
they were actually Lord James Brown on the Nitro. I remember that.
Oh, I remember.
Oh, listen, you want to talk about a really good and no one thought he was going to show up, James Brown, actually, but let's talk a really good moment in Nitro history. La Parka fighting Macho Man and ends up being DDP. Drops a diamond cutter on him after the whole match. No one knew, and then right after he dropped the diamond cutter, got the 3 count. He takes off the mask, and everyone was like, "What?"
Yeah, the crowd went ape shit. That was one of the. I love that moment. Like
chest out, shoulders back, diamond cutter.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. Like you had such a hot commodity in Diamond Dallas Page. I don't understand why they couldn't go any further with him.
Oh, WWE mishandled everything. Imagine when they came there, what they could have done with those guys.
Maybe that's an episode. Maybe the invasion.
Are you talking about WWE?
Yeah, like imagine what they could have done.
Taker
with
hated
DDP.
him.
Taker hated DDP, right? Yeah.
But now they're like really good friends, aren't they?
Something like that.
Not yet. I just saw a Joe Rogan podcast not too long ago, and Taker's like, I think I should give him a call because I'm pretty banged up right now because I think it would be a good idea if I started DDP yoga. So maybe
the air is cleared over there.
His yoga classes and like what he's doing with that is like he has a lot of wrestlers are coming there now. Like he's helping a lot of people.
I heard Goldust is on it. I heard Edge did it. I heard a bunch of these guys. And look, they all.
Hey Campo, maybe we should review Goldust's movie for one of your. He has a movie out apparently.
Listen, you know that they used to introduce him at the beginning. They would be like, one-time Intercontinental Champion, and his favorite movie is The Birdcage. They used to do that all the time in the beginning, and it's
he was supposed to be the embodiment of an Oscar statue.
Yeah, which and like androgynous or like gay, which Birdcage is like Robin Williams' gay movie, which is actually really
Nathan
funny.
Lane. It's an excellent movie. But off topic. But yeah, no, like going back to what you were saying about the whole lucha. As Callisto said once, the whole lucha thing. Nobody got that reference, but I thought that was the best part. That was the best actual wrestling on the show. And like even Kidman, like as joke around about what you want to say about Disco Inferno, his matches were entertaining.
And they did.
Alex Wright, remember Alex Wright, the German?
Disco Inferno was a very serviceable wrestler. Inferno could get the job done.
Those luchadors did some pretty superhuman stuff.
When you look at what they did and the quality of their matches they had on Monday nights, and then you look at nowadays in WWE, they still don't handle that well. What's the stupid idiot that they brought that they thought was so cool who kept injuring himself trying to jump over the top ropes? That guy sucks. Why the hell is he so popular?
Yet they still bring out Rey Mysterio.
But Rey Mysterio's quality of wrestling in WCW was like near perfect. You see all the mistakes he makes in WWE. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy is almost 50, to be fair.
And he looked 11. So good for him.
His son looks older than him now.
Yo, what was the Mortal Kombat guy they had in WCW?
Glacier.
Yeah, Glacier. Yeah.
Oh, they were so good at just doing dumb things.
But that was exactly what it was. It was just literally, he was supposed to be Sub-Zero, literally.
100%.
Hey, what was Macho Man's girl that he brought in afterwards?
Gorgeous George.
Oh,
Gorgeous
Jesus.
George.
Yeah, she wasn't gorgeous at all.
And Miss
anyway.
Madness. Miss Madness was Molly Holly.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. Gorgeous George.
Yeah, he came out with it was Gorgeous George, and Miss Madness. He had another one. Did Asia come out with him for a while, or was
I think he had Medusa.
Or was it Major Guns?
What was Alundra Blaze, right?
Yeah, Medusa.
Medusa. Okay.
I remember when Savage came back doing that angle, and that guy's like, he was like massive now, like
that's when he had the slick back hair with the ponytail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he was trying to
Spider-Man look.
He's trying to hide the bald spot. But like, I remember that the story where when he would do the elbow, because he suffered so many injuries at that point. When he was doing the elbow, he had no control of it. So when he came down on somebody, he came down on somebody like bad and really hurt them. Like he was not able to perform that move anymore without hurting somebody.
Yeah, because in the 80s, that move was so graceful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's in the match against La Parca / DDP. He does a jump from the top ropes, does the elbow, and then pins him, and then looks over at the referee who he just knocked out right before that, and is like, "What's going on?" Like that's how the bookings became in WCW. Like, oh yeah, I knocked out the ref.
But that's the thing too. Ref bumps were like every match had a ref bump.
It was overbooking. You said it last week on our last one. It was overbooking to the max, and to the point where if they didn't ref bump, someone else came out and bumped the ref, and then
or outside interference with the NWO,
and then something that you never saw in WWE. Someone would get knocked out or whatever, like in that match. I'm pretty sure it happens with La Parca and Macho Man, and then Kevin Nash brought a referee out. Like you would have NWO bring out a referee.
Oh yeah, that's right. You had the NWO. Nick Patrick was the NWO referee, and then you had
the
Little
match. They had the match where the referees fought each other.
Yes, that's when Ric Flair got Charles Robinson, the Little Nate. She came out in the robe, and
I mean, and then you had Karl Malone. You had the Dennis Rodman. It just
they were doing a lot because you got to remember that's when they also brought up the was it Ready to Rumble? Was that the name of the movie? I can't remember.
David Arquette.
David Arquette. And they were like promoting the heck out of it. So they were like, it was just so absurd. I mean, again, I did go see the movie in theaters. I'm not gonna lie, but
so did I.
I
saw it
we all did.
times.
But like, even though so we were literally just
I
excited.
didn't.
I actually enjoyed it. But the thing is like when David Arquette came out there, I knew everyone knew even if you were a kid, you had to have known that was a promotional stunt. You know what I mean? It was just it was basically for the movie. But of course, I was like, okay, I'm excited.
I didn't know because all I knew was like, hey, I'm Sal Bandini. You want to wrestle?
I just think it got to a point. It's like when you saw a clean finish, it's like, what the hell? That was a clean finish.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was no
no ref bump?
No ref bump, no outside booking, no nothing in that one. It was just
NWO didn't interfere? Oh my God.
And by the way, like we probably said this 20 times already. If you have not seen You Cannot Kill David Arquette, it's amazing.
I've not seen it yet, but I want to see it.
It's amazing. And he the whole point of it is him trying to prove that he's the biggest wrestling fan and that people doubt him for that. And he wants to make up for what he did in WCW because he feels like he let people down by winning that title. So he wants to prove that he's really a wrestling fan and he knows how to wrestle.
But he
takes a few light bulbs over the head, man.
Yeah.
Like
he was it with GW? Did he work with GWC or was it Evolve? Or
I think it was GWC, and he did a death match.
Yeah,
like. The fact of the matter is that I can respect the fact that David Arquette himself knows that it was a bad call to have him win the championship.
Yeah, but at the time, he had no choice.
But Russo didn't?
But you had the movie company, you had Turner,
it was
and
whole
you had
promo.
the bookers.
Because it was Turner, it was Time Warner, wasn't it? It was Time Warner that released the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the reason why they made a big deal about him winning, because they wanted the hype to be like there was a reason why you want to go see this movie. You know what I mean? And the problem is it backfired in my eyes. You know what I mean? I still saw it, but
Yeah.
I still went and saw the movie, but it wasn't because of David Arquette. It was because I wanted to see all these wrestlers, just like No Holds Bar. You know what I mean? You wanted to see your favorite wrestlers in a movie. You know,
I mean, they booked a few things really poorly. What was the guy that they had that was somebody's son and he was dating Stacy Keibler and
David Flair. I was just
David
about
Flair.
to talk. I wanted to touch on that. David Flair. Like, why? That's all I gotta say is why.
She was pregnant. Okay, they sent him to the ring with a needle to take her blood to see if she was the mother. Obviously, she's the mother. But one of the funny part is, at the time when it happened,
Vince Russo.
Nobody in the crowd even got the joke until the guy came out and was like, "Why would you be trying to take her blood?" And like nobody got that, how stupid it was. But like the dumb things they did, like they went too far. Vince Russo is the best and the worst.
Yeah. The Viagra on a pole match, the Judy Bagwell, everything on a pole match, guitar on a.
It became, and then the pinata on a pole.
Mm-hmm.
There was, which one was the match with Booker T where there were 4 boxes in the corner and the championship belt was in one of the boxes, but the box caved, like the bottom of the box fell out, so the belt fell on the floor.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember what he called it.
Yeah, it was a weird match, but like you had to find the box, like.
The last ever Nitro gave us the 5-time WCW World Champion,
and it gave us the last Ric Flair Sting match.
Yeah, and I was hoping we'd bring that up because that was the thing. I felt like at that point we already knew Vince had ownership, and I think Vince even knew if we're gonna drop WCW and actually shut this show down, we need to do it with the 2 most iconic wrestlers to come out of WCW. You know what I mean? And I was proud of that. I was proud to see that. It was a moment that, because like I said, I even told you, the Giant Dolls, we talked about this last time. I literally had the WWE TV, 2 TVs. They're actually the same TV. We use the same remote, but I literally had both the WWE showing and the WCW showing, and had them side by side when Shane McMahon was there, and you could
legit.
See
I was shocked when I saw Shane on Nitro. I was like, "What the hell is?"
And because I remember when it happened, I literally grabbed the TV from my bedroom, brought it into the living room, set it right beside, and we watched it together with both. And there was an echo, but I was like, it felt like I was even at the theater because of the echo of the 2 shows. But like to see, because I already knew it was the last show based on the Sting and all that, because they
already said it was, yeah.
But then as soon as I saw him pop up on WCW, I was like, what? And when that made it click in my head, because at that point I was old enough to understand, oh, they own him now. So that's the reason why I had to see it at the same time. And I will never forget that day in my life.
They took that angle and they shit all over it, because that moment was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the best thing ever. And it was not good at all.
No.
You brought over Buff Bagwell. He couldn't even wrestle.
No.
You might as well have had Judy Bagwell.
Yep.
You know how he got fired from WWE, right? No. His mom called them and said he can't come wrestle today. and they fired him.
But yeah, but that's the thing though. All the guys with big contracts, 1, didn't want to go to WWE, or 2, why would I go to WWE for less money if Turner's still going to pay me to sit at home?
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. You had Hall, Nash, Hogan, Lex Luger, Hogan, Macho Man, Sting. They Ric all Flair. All those big guys all had that stipulation. Well, I could get paid for the next 3 years, and I don't have to wrestle.
Yeah, and instead, who are you bringing over? Like you're bringing.
It wasn't
Buff
WWF
Bagwell.
stuff.
Yeah. This could be an episode, the culmination of the 2 episodes. We can do an episode on the invasion angle and how they mishandled the invasion angle.
I'll be honest with you, that's actually one, because the thing is, because of my love for WCW and just in general the big stars that came out of there, that was the biggest thing. Is I was so excited to see all the wrestlers I love come over to WWE, and the dream matches that were in my head, and then they never happened, and they never even promoted any of the big ones. Like I know Sting and Goldberg, a prime example. Sting, Goldberg. I know Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio kind of felt like they did get a little more love when they got over there, but like the big ones, Sting and all them, like I was waiting, and even DDP, I was like waiting for that moment. and then it never happened. And I was kind of like, I don't want to be a part of this no more. Like I feel like you just took my childhood away from me and said, no, we get to do what we want now, and we just basically ripped it apart. I mean,
well, for the longest time,
want to see Hogan versus Hart.
Right?
I really want to see Hogan versus Hart. Sorry, man.
Yeah, no, but even
fine.
for the longest time, Sting would not wrestle for the WWE.
He wouldn't.
It took him 20 years before he would go to WWE.
And I even think I went back, and when I heard that, I went back and watched it. And even then, I'll be honest with you, it didn't feel the same anymore. It felt like, because they're getting older now, and there's new wrestler, Young Bucks coming in, even with Goldberg and all these. And it's like, listen, I love them to death, but they're not going to, they can't compete, and it doesn't feel as realistic.
We're talking about something that happened 25 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
If you really think about it.
And to be honest, though, Sting does a really good job still to this day putting AEW people over.
His relationship right now with Darby Allin is fantastic. He's like, there's this young kid, Darby Allin. He's like the skate punk guy, but his character, he's still working on his character, and he's still very young, and he's very green. And for someone like Sting to be in his corner, he doesn't have to necessarily wrestle, but just the fact that Sting is there with him is impactful to this kid. You know what I mean?
When you hit,
and it's not all about Sting.
When you hit a peak of level like Sting or The Rock, or like Bret Hart, Stone Cold, those guys, Undertaker, like guys like Triple H can never have that, because they weren't just heels, they were never loved type of wrestlers.
Exactly.
But you can have a guy like Sting now, doesn't matter what your angle is, Sting shows up, the crowd pops, and you're over. You hold such a position now of like, where it's like, even Hogan, he still gets a pop when he comes out, but I don't think anybody cares anymore. Like, nobody cares about Hogan, but when Sting shows up or The Rock shows up, it's like, oh, it's a huge event now, right?
Yep. Now, the only reason why, a lot of the reason why Hogan's credibility was taken away from him is because he bullshits a lot now. Like, it's just, like a lot of stuff that comes out of his mouth, he's lying, and that's why a lot of people are being turned off by Hogan.
That's the fact that he's a racist piece of garbage.
Yeah, that too.
But that's the reason why the other guys are their credibility is still intact, because they don't bullshit. They're doing their thing. And
Hogan is always thinking, what can I do? What can I do to keep myself over? Like to this day, he's still, what am I doing to, like, what can I do to just stay over?
And what relevance? You gotta think about it. It was always like, okay, Hogan Knows Best came out. I only watched it because of his daughter. It was a joke to me. You know what I mean? That was the only reason there was interest. There was the whole thing about the porn thing, or whatever the hell that was. I don't remember what the whole deal was that. There was the whole thing about, the racist comment. There was so much stuff that he kept on going. Even back then, it was always in WWE. If you remember, he literally had his own chicken in the restaurant. Like, it was this, like, it was always some way he wanted to keep himself out there in the public eye. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Pastamania. That's what I was trying to think of. Pastamania. I couldn't remember what it was. But that's my whole point. He always wanted to be on the spotlight, even if he wanted to have some kind of relevance, whether it's good or bad. And that's the problem, is he went down the thing where he wanted it to be good. He wanted to be everyone's hero. But then when that didn't work, he went to NWO. That did work. But then that started not working. So then all of a sudden his real life became controversial. And I feel like he doesn't care how he gets the attention, as long as he gets attention. And that's the problem. He's never
tired of losing. He's afraid of losing that spotlight, basically.
Exactly.
If he was ever willing to work with other people and help put people over, he could have still been really relevant and cool, and also been much more famous than he was. His unwillingness to work with like Undertaker and Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart is insane. That was the future of wrestling. He didn't want to work with Macho Man. Like, Macho Man was not only one of the best technical wrestlers, he was like the best person you could ever have, like,
in the ring with you.
Yeah, like,
he was such a professional in the ring, like such a professional. It even goes, even if you want to take someone like Dusty Rhodes, who would have, he had the talk and he had the charisma, but he was never, I don't think he'd ever get to the point where he was if it wasn't for Ric Flair. Those matches between Flair and Rhodes were like these. To this day, we're still talking about them, right? But yes, Dusty Rhodes could cut a promo, and he would have made a great manager for someone. But I don't think he'd be as loved as he is now if it wasn't for Ric Flair helping putting him over. So even Ric Flair put people over as much as you don't want
It didn't help Dusty that when he came to the WWE, he was treated like garbage. And then when his son went to the WWE out of spite, was also treated like garbage because Vince McMahon just didn't like you. And it's like, I'm so spiteful over that myself that you like. Goldust was such a good wrestler. His stupid angle was, and I didn't even hate it. It was kind of just different. It was weird. It was entertaining. You didn't know what was going to happen next.
It was one of those things. I hated it, but at the same time, I hated it because it was so weird that I loved it. That's all. I understand it. Yeah.
At the very beginning of it, like when it got really out of hand with the sexuality.
Yeah.
But like, he had like an Undertaker-esque vibe to him where you didn't know anything. It was dark. Like he would come out and it would be dark and like it was almost Undertaker the music.
And you see like the gold flakes fall from the
and it was so like he had like this like undead type of vibe to him as well, and it was like really cool. And then they just pushed this angle of where he was like the movie star is what it became, and it got really weird.
Yeah, and then he became the artist formerly known as Goldust, and that just went off the rails with Luna Vachon.
But I mean, he was such a good wrestler, and Cody's a pretty good wrestler right now.
He still is. Like he could still go in the ring. So
Vince McMahon's like just treat people like garbage. WCW is where you went if you wanted to be a real wrestler at that time,
or if you just wanted a paycheck.
I'll stick with it. There has never been a cooler era in wrestling as that specific beginning of NWO until like the early 1998
mid-90s, yeah.
Because yes, Stone Cold and The Rock are really cool, but the rest of WWE was never cool like that.
Yeah. Like everybody was over, but I don't think they were as cool. Like you had a handful of people. Triple H tried to be.
Just hearing the song New World Order, like,
and then the Jimi Hendrix, Hogan came out to Jimi Hendrix, right?
Yeah.
It's funny you guys said that too, because I just thought about it, because we were just talking about how Hogan wants to be the spotlight. I bet you he hates watching any Rock movie or any movie with Batista to see them still in that spotlight, so successful, and he never got that success that they got. You know what I mean? Like Batista and The Rock, they have careers outside of wrestling, though. You know what I mean? And even maybe even John Cena a little bit. You know what I mean? They have the careers are outside of wrestling, and Hogan always wanted that with like no holds barred.
Well, John Cena, if you ask John Cena, it's all about family, right?
John Cena, what is he? Vin Diesel.
I've not seen that yet, but I love it.
John Cena's another one that, like, forget about acting. I don't understand how he got over. His gimmick was so stupid.
It was, I agree.
He wasn't even that good of a wrestler. He couldn't even cut a good promo. He sounded literally like a honky. Like that's what he reminded me of. Like some like loser ass white guy that just wanted to be a rapper.
I mean, he's a meme. Think about it. You know what I mean? John Cena.
Yeah, but that's the thing. In the beginning, he was not a meme. He was actually cool. Yeah. People loved him.
I remember it. Yeah, but now I remember even when a WWE, which we got now getting off the WCW.
Yeah, way off topic here. Yeah.
But just saying, I remember that. That's the reason I was trying to get back into wrestling, and the whole John Cena thing was like, he was cool. Then all of a sudden, even when he came out and they tried to like give him hype and everything, you could hear the audience booing him, and it's like, wow, like they're not giving him any love. He just can't get it.
I don't know if it's like now it's just part of the meme, but even when he first came out to his theme song, the crowd would chant "John Cena sucks."
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. Again, like I said, I just but I just said, like I said, that was the reason I said with the Hogan thing, because when you brought The Rock, again, even Cena, I bet you even Hogan hates to even see Cena that's got at least a decent career compared to what he has, and that's what the Hogan's always wanted.
Okay, Cena is now in Suicide Squad, and he's been in Fast. So these are arguably two large franchises. Mm-hmm. Hogan has never had that.
No. But Hogan did pave the way. If you really look at it, forget about franchises. His pay relative to the kind of movies he was in was probably massive. And he did put out like 20 movies in like 5 years. So, I mean, good for Hogan. I don't like
Suburban Commando, underrated.
The last thing I
love that movie.
Is for me, I think in terms of like, there was still people who had good stuff. But I think WCW is the one who really changed the game in terms of entrances and like having music that made people pop. Because like if you really watch the early 90s, everyone has like a classical music song. Like
that's true.
Ric Flair, Macho Man,
Mr. Perfect,
even
in
like
WCW.
No, in
No,
WWE.
just in general, WWE.
The only one that had a good one actually would be Hogan.
Razor Ramon had that song, which was just a bunch of noises, and then Diesel was just a horn honking.
Remember the Rock meme?
Razor Ramon had a bunch of noises.
Yeah, if you listen to Razor Ramon's song, it has a beat, dun, 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 but the rest of it is like sirens and like clapping things and like.
It's still a song.
I know.
Goldust had a classical theme.
Yeah, exactly. And Bret Hart was like maybe the exception at that point. Then you had Yokozuna was like light Japanese music.
Even though he was Samoan.
I know, but you see what I mean? That WCW let them really go their own way with it. And you had those really big, like...
To be fair, though, WCW songs. Was also a ripoff of popular songs. Like Jericho, I think Jericho came out to a ripoff of Even Flow. Yeah. Diamond Dallas Page was a ripoff of Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Of course, but they did that. Where on the other side, Vince McMahon was like, "No, you're going to come on to Beethoven."
That's true. Well, anybody else got any final thoughts on this before we head out?
Yes, I do. Sorry for that. There was a long while. I wasn't actually saying anything because I was just had Tori Wilson on my mind. But
I'm a side note guy myself.
On a side note, Razor Ramon's theme song was friggin' fantastic.
It was.
That's all I gotta say.
It was. I give you that.
That's all I gotta say.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm a Goldberg fan. That whole like when he came out, that
music for you.
Yeah, it's still classical, but with the intensity, man. Like the intensity, like everyone knew
Goldberg's thing that got everyone going. Like we talked about this before, was the 3-minute walkout and then standing in the middle of the sparks.
And he'd breathe in the smoke and
breathe
it out.
I'm one of those that was like, yes, this is about to happen. But that
only added to his image of like this absolute monster. And then they gave him the mic. He was like, yes, I'm despicable. I will fight you and eat your children.
I heard that they had to spend a lot of money to use Jimi Hendrix's song.
Yeah.
I just remember like that was like mismanagement.
That was Turner. Turner had money to blow like that, right?
But see, like
he owned the Atlanta Braves.
He owned everything at that point and all of like the South.
He owned Atlanta.
But see, even people didn't like it. I still loved when he said, "Who's next?" Like it was just basically a knockoff. That was the only thing he ever said.
But that's all he needed to say.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
After he beats the guy down at the end of a match, he 1, 2, 3 grabs the mic. Who's next? And
he should have had a talker who talked the whole time, and then at the end of every promo, just put the mic in front of his face, and he would just go, "Who's next?" And then that's it.
I remember when
he had someone like a Paul Heyman talking for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Jimmy Hart, buddy. Let him.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up like one more example.
I'll be right there.
Okay, go
ahead, Caps.
I just wanted to bring one more example about the politics. Remember, like I think Johnny, I think you brought it up, like when they had the Nitro here.
Mm-hmm.
That one time that they had the Nitro here, and Bret Hart wanted to do this one thing with Goldberg.
Oh, when you put the plate on.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So the story goes, like he had this idea. He went to Bischoff about it, and he wanted to do that with Goldberg. And Bischoff said, "Yeah, you got to get the okay from Hogan."
I did not know that. What?
I'm pretty sure that was the last year at the Gardens because they had the patch, and I think it was a Ty Domi jersey he was wearing.
God, Ty Domi.
I think he had the patch the last year at Maple Leaf Gardens.
I think he was wearing a Calgary Hitman jersey, and then he took it off, and he had a Maple Leafs jersey underneath.
And then he took that off, and he had a steel plate on.
He had a steel plate.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. So speaking of broken angles, this is okay. So I have one last thing.
Yeah, one last thing.
You did that, and you showed that now we've outsmarted Goldberg, and we can beat him. And then you went nowhere with that angle. Bret Hart never talked about Goldberg ever again.
No.
But he mentioned that stupid Mexican wrestler every single promo. Do you remember what his name was?
No.
Oh, my God.
El Dandy. El
Dandy. Every promo that Bret Hart cut, he big up. He tried to put over El Dandy.
It was the funniest thing ever. I know who deserves a title shot. El Dandy. Gene's like, who? El Dandy. El Dandy deserves a title. El Dandy.
At one pay-per-view, he cut a promo for like 3 minutes where all he did was talk about El Dandy.
Oh my God, I gotta look that up now.
You know what? And Bret Hart was talking about it. He was so frustrated because they were telling him go talk about something, and then it got into a point where Bret Hart's like, you know what? I'm gonna go out there and talk about whatever I want. And then this this came up organically where he was
El
just talking
Dandy.
about El Dandy.
Yeah, and he's like, I really
It
like.
was the
He's like, I really
funniest
like El
thing-
Dandy, so I decided to put him over.
It was the funniest thing ever because he didn't know what to talk about.
Wait, no, he wasn't Ramses in Nacho Libre. That was the Silver King.
That was Silver King. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Good
Yeah.
talk. It's
Anyway.
probably like 5 hours.
All right,
It's all about
Silver
Tori
King.
Wilson.
And if viewers aren't aware, apparently I'm a fanboy for Goldberg. If we're going to
Yeah, well, we got that.
He
And,
said it.
Hey,
It's all about Tori Wilson.
at least my internet
Lazy
survived
keyword.
this episode.
Yeah, his
yeah,
internet survived.
right.
On that note, folks, thanks again for joining on this probably really long episode. I don't know how long we've been going for,
Very
but enjoy it, guys. And on that note, guys, we'll see you next time.
Oh, yeah.
Muscles.
Who's next?